Well, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for registering, attending, checking out the recording, however you're consuming this joint presentation here between Pixeltrue and Spotlight Branding. As you can see, we are talking about your landing pages and your lead magnets and just our best tips and advice for creating landing pages that convert and lead magnets that are going to attract the right kinds of clients and customers for your business. I am John Henson. I am with Spotlight Branding. We are a content marketing company based in Charlotte, North Carolina. We mostly work with solo and small legal and financial firms, but I personally, as part of my job here, I do a lot of this sort of thing and talking about, good marketing strategies and things that you can do even beyond just, Google ads or SEO or other things like that. We really have a focus on generating referrals, but I know that landing pages and lead magnets kind of bridge the gap there between the two. And so I know we're going to talk a lot about that today. And I will let my co-host, Graham Sawyer, had it and then stumbled over it. Graham Sawyer, introduce himself.
Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. Again, thank you for participating. We'll try and make this fun and lively for you as much as possible. I know that's, well, at least on the West Coast for us, it's 12 o'clock. So many of you might be eating lunch while we're doing this too. So appreciate your time. I'm Graham from Pixeltrue Design Studios. We are a team of roughly 85 designers and project managers, and we cover pretty much every design aspect that you could need, animation, illustration, web design, landing pages, to name just a few. We overall work with about 50 to 60 clients at any given time, some as big as KPMG size, and then down to smaller tech companies and startups, and covering pretty much every single vertical out there that you could think of. So we've seen and done almost everything that we can think of. So we know, we'd like to think we know what we're talking about.
Awesome. Yeah. So if at any point during this, anyone has a question or a comment, throw it in to the chat or the Q&A. I know Warren is in here. He's going to be monitoring that. He's going to get you some answers pretty quickly. So, he can jump in and interrupt us with a question, anything like that. But other than that, I mean, let's just jump in and get started here. Graham, this is a lot of what you guys do in terms of talking about landing pages that convert, right? So this kind of goes beyond just marketing campaigns that get a lot of traffic. You want to make sure that your landing pages are communicating with the right people and then getting those right people to convert.
Exactly. And I'll start with some people. I mean, what the heck is an actual landing page to begin with? And landing pages, there are actually a whole bunch of different names that you can call them. They're known as lead capture pages, squeeze pages, single property pages, I've heard, static page, destination page. All of them mean the exact same thing. So I'll just use landing pages as a general term, but all of those can be done. Landing pages can be home pages by themselves, or they can actually be dedicated pages. More commonly are dedicated pages on a site that are specifically designed to accomplish one conversion goal. And that's often a lead capture to get the client's customer details, or a purchase potentially too. Those are the two main ones, but there are some others as well. And then lead magnets by themselves, they incorporate sort of the entire journey from landing pages in its overall process in order to acquire contact information for customers. And lead magnets can be simple to complex, right? It can just be an ad to a page to capture email, and then one email gets sent out potentially, or it can be as broad as a series of emails over an entire year and retargeting ads and a whole bunch of different things being part of it. So it should be commonly known that the importance of a high converting landing page in digital marketing is very important. Increasing your conversion rate even as low as 1% can have really significant impacts to the bottom line. If you have 1,000 people visiting that page, a 1% conversion means 10 extra more contact details that you get for that person. And if you're dealing with high valued customers as well, maybe we're talking to the law firms, for example, that John work with, a single law firm customer or client detail is significant to the bottom line overall, and such a high valued thing. So increasing a conversion is so important overall. And then the role in lead magnets and generating leads and building email lists, it's integral in the whole process, as most individuals are not necessarily just interested in exchanging their contact details just for the sake of it. They want some type of value exchange. And within the overall lead magnet and landing page process, you're trying to convey that value to entice the individual to provide you with their information. Okay.
Yeah, and I'll even add on to this real quick. Talking about your lead magnets, it's a great way to put your website to work for you, right? Your website already is kind of your digital business card, it's your digital office space. It's what's going to make the first impression of your business. But then also, if you can have a good lead magnet there, your website can become a good lead generation tool for your firm. And you can also kind of repurpose those lead magnets to potentially generate leads on social media. You can share that as a post on social media and boost it or build an ad around it so that you drive traffic to your website to that lead magnet.
Excellent points. Yes, exactly. So the following slide here, we're going to go into the components of an effective landing page specifically. How the heck can we actually get this done? That's great that you're talking about it. Increase conversions, that's all well and good, but how do we go and do that? So an effective landing page, it includes many key components. We've put some impactful ones here, and we'll get into more of the nitty-gritty as the slides go on. But in essence, the big core part is having targeted messaging tailored directly to the audience needs. And so you want to be able to speak the right language and really touch on the proper pain points that are speaking to your inevitable customer contact. And the research point is really, really so important. And often is overlooked, is that overall detail. And we will again expand a little bit more on that in later slides. But the consistent branding elements as well is really important, not only on the landing page specifically, but if you are dealing with ads, for example, or an email to begin with, really making sure that there's consistency across the entire brand. That's very, very important, even as colors as well. So the ads, for example, we'll just highlight ads. They should have the similar branding style and colorations as the landing page, because then there's not a disconnect between the ad and what you're bringing to. Whether you may have seen some yourself, you've clicked on an ad and it looks entirely different than where you go. And then you have a bit of a brain conflict, I suppose, wondering whether this place is legit, whether you went to the right spot, is this correct, et cetera. You want to make the journey as seamless as possible so that it makes the conversion that much higher. And then ultimately you want to have a clear value proposition as well. If you can say the same thing by eliminating certain words, then do that. Cut those words out. You want to be as clear and concise as possible with language, and really being clear on what's being offered. So there's no second guessing on what's being promised. That's hugely important as well. If people are spending too much time reading and understanding what the heck is it that I'm actually getting here, then you've lost so many of individuals. And then sort of with that same vein, minimizing distractions and focusing on content. The goal of landing page is to convert. So a focused design on a singular goal and avoiding any chances of diversion with other clickable elements. That's one of the reasons why people don't always use home pages because there are so many different distractions potentially you can go on. There's menu bars up there. Oh, I wonder about us. Maybe I'll click on that, and that'll pull them away from your ultimate goal of likely getting the lead. So you want to focus and minimize distractions as much as possible and funnel people into that one goal. And then again, we'll expand on this later slides, specifically on call to actions and a whole bunch of other things to do.
Yeah, and to build on that, I think there's a fine line, and I see this with, a lot of the legal people that I work with. You don't want it to just be a billboard, right? Like, you don't want it to just have your phone number and call now. Like, you can play around with a little bit more. Like, that value proposition is so important in terms of making it really clear who you're trying to help and what you're doing. But like you said, you don't want this page that scrolls endlessly with a whole bunch of fluff in there that people really aren't going to read, or that's going to bore people or make them click away or anything like that. And so that's where the strategizing is really important there, because you have more room than like a literal billboard, but you don't want to try to force everything in there that you possibly can.
Yeah, the regurgitation of everything. Yeah. It's a slippery slope. You can easily get into, oh, what about this? This is important. This is important. This is important. Trying to delve down and back to that research. That's an important aspect too. And we'll touch on some of the research as well on this slide specifically. And so understanding the user intent and target audience, hugely, hugely important. Really knowing who you're speaking to is the name of the game. And you start by identifying the buyer personas. So how do you do that? Consider doing surveys with your customers, actually reaching out to maybe some of the long-standing customers you have, or new customers, et cetera, and interview them. Sort of ask them questions like, looking at beyond customer profiles, look for common traits and try and tailor that language specifically within your offer to those individuals. So, and that I get back to the second point with analyzing the audience needs and pain points. Pain points are sort of the name of the game for a landing page or a sales page overall. And this can be obviously part of the process of doing your surveys and interviews, is incorporating some of those questions of trying to understand why they came to you at the begin with. What was the main incentive for them choosing you? What were their issues to begin with? What are the issues now? How can we solve them? All these types of questions are gold to be able to construct specifically how you can potentially help them, and almost guide them and force them to give them information. Like, we'd be stupid not to do it, because you're touching on all the things that I'm feeling right now. I can't believe they're speaking gospel to me. Like, yes, I need them right now. Let's just, get the goal, put the email in and get it going. And then aligning the landing page content with user intent as well. So it speaks to the offering of the ad as well, potentially, and what your conversion is on the landing page. So making sure that's consistent within what a value is, within what a customer is going to want to do, is also very valuable again. So if it's, download this PDF type offering, enter your email, et cetera, you want to be able to consistently offer what it is that's valuable within that PDF and go on with there. So you don't want to be sporadic, back to John's point as well. You don't want to just brain regurgitate all the different points. You want to be focused on ultimately what the goal is. And then getting into the minutia of the actual landing page, it starts with compelling headlines and subheadings. Every component of a landing page is important. Headlines are often the first thing that people see. So spending a significant amount of time trying to generate the proper headline is worth its weight in gold. Again, back to that, the importance of attention grabbing headlines, spending time on really crafting what the best one is. Again, I cannot speak enough. I've already said it once, but I'll say it again. Testing different headlines, if you are in the you have the option to be able to split test. Split testing meaning you send a certain amount of traffic to one page with the only variation being the headline, and then another page being another variation of headline, and seeing if there's any type of conversion rate difference. That is a long-term strategy that works very well too, being singular and efficient on just changing one variable and seeing what happens. Even slightly as much as a color change from one to another can actually make a huge difference too. So that's down the line, but split testing is also important. But brainstorming a headline and crafting that is hugely important. And then you can see, from the example, even just sizing as well. You can see our example here, industrial top business proposal. Like, what grabs your eye and attention that much more? It's essentially the same words as well, but changing the design around and writing it clear and concise can change things too. Writing clear, concise. How many times are we going to talk about this again? A lot, because it's very important. Using power words, keeping things short and to the point. Power words are so important in the fact that we live in a world of 10-second threads, right? Hopefully we're keeping your attention right now. We've gone beyond 10 seconds. You're eating your lunch, etc. Keeping the messaging powerful, again, so important to avoid people leaving your page without converting. Optimizing headlines with relevant keywords as well, and emotional triggers to make them more impactful. Emotion is also the name of the game too, back to that pain points, etc. The more you can make people feel in your headlines, in your copy, in every other aspect, the more emotional people get, and the more likely they are going to actually act rather than just read.
Yeah. And to build on your split testing point, I think one thing that maybe most non-marketers kind of see with marketing is like, they think that there's some sort of finality with the campaigns that they run, when I don't know that that's necessarily the case. Like, you always be testing something, right? Mm-hmm. You have a champion, test it up against something. And then when something new, maybe, performs better than your champion, that becomes your new champion. So like you said, different font sizes, different colors, different, even like emotional sort of approaches to that. Like, yeah, always be testing something, because I don't think you're really ever going to land on a method or something that's like 100% going to work every single time. Like, needs are always changing. Like, people's attitudes and behaviors are going to constantly change. And so whatever you can do that converts to the best of its ability all the time, like, that's your champion, but you always still want to be testing something up against it to see if some element of it works better than your highest performing, split.
Exactly. And always be testing. That's a great phrase to do it, because there is sorry, and back to the last slide, there's last point, the tips to optimizing headlines as well. Back to that emotional triggers aspect, I mentioned the use of power words. Power words are those that create feelings. So words like new, irresistible, quick, like don't, stop, no, they're all examples of words that could be very, very, very effective in terms of getting people to work, and either as a pattern interrupt or as an attention grabber, or invoking that feeling to continue on. And so ensuring your headlines are attention grabbing, again, using clear, concise language. Remember to optimize headlines with relevant keywords. That's, again, I'll say it again and again, and I need to repeat it because it's so important. So a call to action, ultimately. So what is a CTA or call to action? It is the key to driving conversions on your landing page. And you want to define the actual desired action for users. Again, so is it a download now? Is it sorry, I just realized my video went out, so I'll turn that back on again. Got distracted there with my not seeing my own face. Download now, purchase now, enter leads, etc. Back to that point, you want to define exactly what it is your point of doing. And then what is that you're wanting to accomplish? So back to that point. The use of call to action colors is also so important. using not only complementary colors, but often opposite colors from your main color scheme on your web page, that are bright and grab attention ultimately. So there's a color wheel. You can look it up online. If you're using, the color blue, if you look at the opposite of what blue is, it's probably more like yellow red-ish. And so it's that contrasting color that makes it so opposite and attention grabbing. And you want to be very selective in the use of those colors so that it focuses the attention on exactly what it is you're wanting to do. So, check that out. It's a color wheel, and making that stand out that much more. So tips for creating an effective call to our CTA copy. You don't have a ton of space for your CTA area, right? Ultimately, especially given that there are different mobile sizes and view sizes out there, but your goal is to let them know exactly what you want them to do. So starting words like buy or shop, if you're in the e-com space, download, subscribe, discover, learn, all these things as starting words, also something to consider. Use FOMO, or the fear of missing out, as well. Maybe it's a limited time offer, some type of reason for they'd be stupid not to take action now. And again, back to using the power words as well. And then I touched a little bit on it too, but beware of devices. Mobile is becoming more and more popular. More and more people are viewing it, but a mobile screen as well they're different sizes all over the place. There are new flip phones that are incredibly long, and there's some that are really wide. And so even thinking about that overall view and landscape is important too, and testing the viewing on every single mobile device or aspect ratio is also important, because if you have a design and you think, okay, well, I have it in the center here, or I have this button over here, it might not be the case on a different display because it might be rendering it improperly. And that can hurt your conversion as well. So it's all of these things and factors are important to think of too. And then on to the next aspect of actually designing visually appealing and user-friendly layouts. It's all about using all of these different elements to keep your users engaged on actually what's going on your landing page. And I spoke to this already on call to actions, but the overall design is so important to open on mobile displays, make sure that there are no elements on the wrong spots. Using effective white space and visual hierarchy as well, letting the page breathe and using some proper visual hierarchy helps focus attention, and setting up the layout on the page can be used by using color and contrast, which we talked about already, scaling elements like some of the examples before in the headlines. There's one inspiration, for example, was nice and big. Pulling those things in grabs the attention. Bigger elements we read first as well. So being focused and intentional on what the bigger elements that you're using too, or the bigger words, right, grabs the attention that much more. Choosing and grouping elements together as well. We have some poor and well-designed elements here. I will put the caveat that the poor overall web page has many of the elements that we're talking about that are distractions. You can see there's an upper menu there, like it will distract. There's a whole lot of wording. Truth is a key word that is a power word. It's underlined, it's bigger, it pulls your eye that much more. So they are using some elements. Having said this, we talked about split testing as well. It could very well be that in the specific customer profile that this one business on the truthaboutAbs.com, maybe this one web page is the best converting web page out there. You don't know until you entirely test. It has many of the elements that I wouldn't recommend, but that's the power of split testing. It could very well be that type of font choice, that type of complexity and over indulgence on words and font size and things like that could be the right thing. I don't think so. I'd be surprised if it were to be the most effective, but it could very well be. And then how to choose colors, fonts, and other design elements. You want to choose fonts that are ideally clear to read and also fit your audience as well. So this comes back to the research too. So does your brand have a cheerful or serious tone? Playful? Is it professional? All of these need to be factored in, even to the point of your font design and your design elements and everything else. They all need to be related. Having an engaging hero photo as well, something in the background, like the well-designed aspect. Maybe not the best background. There's a lot going on in there as an example, but it could very well be the right thing. But choosing a nice hero image, also very important. The compelling benefits, clear and unique selling proposition as well, using that clear and concise language, and then strong CTAs as well, of course, which we talked about. And then lastly, social proof. And here we are. So the social proof and testimonials create trust and credibility with potential customers. So invaluable to have the right social proof and testimonial on there. Including different types of testimonials like reviews. If you have can have a section, on case studies as well. They're longer potentially, but really can promote effectiveness on actually getting that trust across. And hopefully the customer testimonials as well can touch on the exact same pain points that you've researched before, right? So again, you're circling it and focusing entirely on exactly what you've researched in the research phase. And then social proof is obviously one of the biggest ways to gain credibility, making the reviews as believable as possible. And by that, I mean, not just, one sentence, this group is great, okay, well, that's helpful, I suppose, but touching on those pain points. And if you can have the customers include their web page or URL or full name, if the individual is someone that is identifiable and well known, then all you need is a name. But often that's not the case. So having some way that it's clear that it's not like I just created this person out of thin air, having web pages, having something rather that is more and more. There's always an element of distrust, I suppose, on the internet, because you can create a web page, you can create a customer review. John says this place is the best. You're like, oh, John, that guy must be totally real. You don't know for sure. But if you have a web page, if you have a URL, if you have photos of the individual, all these things can help show that you are actually using true and proper testimonials as well.
Yeah. And just to add on to that, I know, especially in the legal world, you got a lot of things around ethics, around doing something like that. An easy way to do that, especially if you're focusing on building up your Google reviews or you have a lot of Facebook reviews, there are specific plugins or even embed codes that will pull directly from that you can put right on your landing page to still give that social proof. And they're all going to be verified, because it's really, really difficult to buy fake Google reviews and Facebook reviews. Like, it's really obvious when that's the case. So, if you're kind of struggling with that, especially if you're in the legal world, but even if you're, in other industries, look into some different plugins or embed codes like iframe codes or anything like that you could just plug right into your landing page that pulls those reviews from a third party.
Exactly. And then, touching on a very important part, again, every element is important, but in the last example, in the page above, we had sort of a custom graphic there, and that sort of pulled your eye. Creating visual content is really essential as part of your overall page to help convey your message, but also, serving as sort of a pattern interrupt. Again, we live in a world, again, attention spans are getting shorter and shorter. Already touched on, hopefully you're still with us. visual content, so important with doing that. So types of media to include ultimately on pages is custom images. Getting stock images or something where it looks like it could be on any web page, it can help, but actually creating a custom image, something that is tailored specifically to you and your brand and your company, very important. Videos, infographics, tutorials, all these things on a page can capture your audience's attention, and again, distract them a little bit. You know, if they're scrolling and whatever it is, and it can jump them, it can reawaken them to focus their attention once more. And you know, this has been a huge impact for our customers when using our services. Just making illustrations and videos in different ways have increased conversions by a significant margin. We've using all of the elements that we've talked about within the landing pages. We've actually helped some customers go and increase their overall conversions by as much as 300%, which is unbelievably effective. And it's back to that split testing too. We can probably move that needle up to maybe even 400% with split testing, et cetera. 300% was their first go at our first attempt. That was a best case scenario. I wait for the time for us to get higher than 300%. That was a pretty smashing success. It was a florist group actually. Anyways, but all of these elements hugely important, and so creating those custom elements, again, so helpful with regards to helping your conversion. And then the best practices for actually optimizing media. So having more images, more videos and things like that, they can have a chance to hog the load time or slow things down for your loading page. And if you are running ads or other things, having a snappy page, something that loads a lot faster, is also very important too. So having that balance and having a group that knows how piggish something may be and where to stack those elements is also important too. So if you do have a video, for example, using even a small thing like having a still thumbnail image rather than loading the video straight away, having a still thumbnail that loads straight away, because images don't load. It takes a shorter period of time to load than a video does. So having that still image just sort of lazy loaded there, and then if people click on it, that's when the actual rendering of the video will occur, and people have already committed to watching it, so they're okay waiting 1 or 2 seconds, whereas not everyone else is willing to wait that long too. So small elements like that, very important too. Having those videos or even images, if you can have them almost below the fold too, below the fold being on the first loads, if it's mobile or whatever it is, it's that opening view screen. If you can limit the amount of heavier size images or videos and things like that to below the scroll, once someone scrolls the first time, that's the time to add those in. There are something called like Lottie video files. I'm not sure if anyone's ever heard of what the heck that is. It's an incredibly small footprint video file format. It's, I think, maybe a 10th or maybe a 20th the size of normal video files. It's so incredibly small, and they load so much faster. So we do that a lot as well, as we create Lottie files, put them on websites. Not every website can generate that. Sometimes you need to do some custom coding to be able to do that, but the results pay off just because of that load time being decreased so much more. But that's ultimately sort of all the different best practices they can go. So I'll hand it over to John to continue on.
Yeah, so got about 20 minutes left. So I got a lot of slides to get through, so I'm going to burn through these pretty quickly. We've talked already about, identifying your audience's needs and pain points. One thing that we're kind of seeing a shift in, especially over the last few years, is this idea of kind of shifting the narrative from you being the hero of the story to your audience being the hero of the story, and making sure that your audience is the hero, right? You as the business owner, the person trying to solve the problem, you are the guide. You are helping your audience, your client customer, go from point A to point B, and overcoming whatever obstacle stands in their way. And when you can really put yourself in their shoes and really understand, all right, what obstacle is my audience trying to overcome, right? So like if you're a family lawyer, maybe they're trying to overcome a divorce. Well, what's the end result really though that they're trying to achieve, right? It's more than just, well, they just want to get separated from their spouse, right? They want, maybe they want freedom, maybe they want peace of mind, maybe they want, kind of starting over in their life. And so being able to find those sorts of positive feelings and sort of restorative or newer
Revenge.
feelings. Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Touch on that pain point.
Right. So those are sorts of things that you got to look into and really understand with your audience. And look, if you've been in business and you've served that audience for any amount of time, you have a good idea of what your audience is going through. And when you have that, you can create that value-driven content that addresses those needs. And so this is what we do a lot with our clients in terms of creating blog content, creating video content that provides value, right? Like you don't have to create content around current events. I see this a lot in the legal industry, especially like their blog page will be full of current event articles that is covering stuff that didn't even happen in that law firm state. It's just, hey, this person was in a car accident. This was kind of crazy about this car accident. If this ever happens to you, give our firm a call. Like it's a terrible article. It doesn't really provide any value. But the opposite side of that is, provide articles like, if you're in a car accident, do these 5 things first. Or, if you're thinking about divorce, here are 5 ways that you can start preparing financially. Like adding those bits of value really goes a long way towards demonstrating that you understand what your audience is going through. And it also helps you build that connection that goes beyond something that's just transactional. And then you can help, you can generate repeat business out of that. You can generate referrals and word of mouth out of that, because you're not just constantly in this state of self-promotion. You're not constantly throwing out calls to action. You are actually providing value, which then goes back to Graham's point of building that credibility and that expertise. So when we're talking about lead magnets, I brought up earlier just, how you can put your website to work for you, and your website's a great place to host your lead magnet. And you can do all kinds of things. You can do an ebook, and, that could be anywhere from 100 pages, or it can be like 5 or 10 pages. It doesn't have to be this giant novel. One easy hack, honestly, is if you have a lot of evergreen content that kind of follows a similar pattern or thought process, compile all of those blog articles into a short ebook. And you can, with a little bit of editing here and there to make things flow from one article to the next, you can create a short little lead magnet out of that. You can do a checklist. I mentioned, a great one for personal injury attorneys is like an auto accident checklist. It's just a list of 10, 15, 20, however many things that you think someone needs to do after they're in a car accident, things they need to check, people they need to call, whatever it is. That's a great resource for people. You can provide webinars. You can have these gated webinars where people sign up for it. They give you contact information, and you do these ongoing sorts of programs. You can do them in person too. I know that in the before times of the pandemic, there were people who actually did lunch and learns and ongoing events where people show up to your office, crazy, and you do a seminar, and you provide some refreshments or whatever, give away a small prize or something, have people fill out their contact info, raffle off something. It doesn't have to be super crazy. It can be a gift card to a nice restaurant, like $50 or something. Doesn't have to be, super crazy, but, checklists, worksheets, anything like that, that's interactive, but still provides value. It just kind of depends on what service or what product you're providing and how that might help, help your audience out. In terms of promotion, another thing I brought up earlier, use your social media, share your lead magnets on social media. I'm not going to tell you that it's going to help your social media strategy generate dozens or hundreds of leads, but it does give you content to publish, and the more content that you can publish on social media, the better. And if that content can help you generate leads, it's a win-win situation. You can share that stuff in your email marketing. You can generate, building on the social media, you can generate ads around that, some pay-per-click style ads with your social media, boosting those posts on like Facebook or LinkedIn to get it out in front of more people and generate leads like that. You can also collaborate with other businesses. You can do what we're doing right here between Spotlight Branding and Pixeltrue, is like do some co-branded webinars or some other sort of presentation with other businesses, especially businesses that might be good referral sources for you. Maybe you're a family lawyer, maybe do some sort of co-branded webinar with a counselor and talk about maybe some communication tips, or, ways to not, choke each other out during your divorce process or something crazy like that. That's
a great headline.
That's really valuable for people. Yeah. Right. But yeah, doing something like that, and making sure that, again, you're just figuring out ways to make your website and the content that you're doing, really work for you. Tracking and measuring. I know, especially in the industries that we serve, this is super important. You want to know the ROI that you're getting from it. You want to make sure that you've got all the data around it. So make sure you have the KPIs for your landing pages. What goals do you want to set for your landing pages? How many qualified leads do you want to try to convert? What's your conversion rate, whatever it is? And Graham, I know you can kind of speak into this because I know this is more what you guys do, but what are some good KPIs that people should be setting? And I know like the actual number is going to be different based on your market size and what you're actually doing, but what kinds of data points do you want people to be focusing on their landing pages?
Time on page is a big one potentially, and seeing that, ultimately conversion on the actual goal of whatever it is the most important KPI. But some of the secondary ones, time on page, the amount of people leaving. You can also, the tracking and measuring aspect as well. There are a bunch of different services that can do it, but they can actually record sessions of what a user behavior is doing when someone loads on the landing page as well. So it'll actually take a session, record exactly the journey, what it is, where their mouse went, where they clicked. It's kind of creepy, but also very cool and involved from your end. Uses heat maps as well. It can tell you the overall aspect of where people are clicking on and moving and scrolling and spending time on. All of those very important as well. So that can be a portion of the KPI too, because you're seeing that data, and it'll help you inform and change your potential landing page for the better.
Yeah. And one app that I've been using a lot lately to track that sort of thing with the heat maps and the screen sessions is called Zoho PageSense. Zoho is a larger suite of applications. It's a CRM, but they've also got a bunch of other stuff, and they have an application within their suite called PageSense that does this heat mapping. It records those sessions, and so you can kind of see where people are searching, where the cursor's going, what people are clicking on the most. And so if you're really trying to get deep into that and really understand how people are interacting, an app like that can be really, really beneficial.
Microsoft also has one that's actually free as well. I can't remember the name of it.
Free is good.
But it's Microsoft, so it's not like it's a rinky-dink operation as well. So it actually works very well. It's free. I can't remember. Unfortunately, I can't remember the name of it. I suggest it all the time, but Googling it or Binging it, I suppose, it may be the best choice since it's Microsoft. But anyways, you get it. Look it up.
Yeah. Yeah. A/B testing. We've talked about this a lot already. Test everything. Always be testing something, and start with your headlines and then test different buttons, test different page links. Maybe have one paragraph as one test, and then have maybe 2 or 3 paragraphs as another test. Test different colors of things. Test putting a video at the top versus a video maybe in the middle or a video at the bottom. Test everything. That's it, and that's probably the biggest takeaway I think from this webinar. Be testing something with your landing pages, and always have something going up against your champion to maybe see if there's a way to convert a little bit better. Some examples of some successful landing pages and lead magnets. We've got a bunch of different case studies and different things that some bigger companies have done here. And we'll get to those in just a second. But I mean, for us, the things that I see a lot, especially for the legal industry, and Graham, maybe you can speak to some other industries as well here, but just like almost just like a free report or a special report or like a short white paper, like honestly, not 1,500 words that comes out to maybe 3 pages in a Google Doc, just really just kind of an extended blog article covering some sort of concept. What 5 things that a last will and testament doesn't cover for, or 10 things in your tax return that could trigger an IRS audit, different things like that, where it's covering kind of a surface level concept that your audience is searching for and asking about and wondering about, and a good way to maybe come up with that, is really like, what kinds of work do you prefer doing? And then building a lead magnet off of that. But then also, what kinds of things, what kinds of patterns are you seeing with your audience and clients? What sorts of things are they asking about the most? And being able to synthesize all of that into sort of a free resource or a lead magnet, like I said, a 1,500 word article presented as a white paper or a mini ebook or a special report or something like that has always been pretty solid. Even a checklist or, especially for family law, like a child support calculator, could be pretty good if you can get that sort of thing programmed, and you can get that, get the data and the calculations over to someone who knows how to code that in. That's also something pretty good. But Graham, I mean, what have you seen in some other industries in terms of lead magnets that work really well?
It does. I mean, yeah, there's so many. I guess I'll add on to the fact that whatever it is that the lead magnet is, you want to deliver value as much as possible, because the more you can actually, whatever it is that they're asking for, if you can over deliver almost on what it is, and it's a free resource, then that speaks again to your credibility with whatever it is. And so that is almost another hugely important aspect is not just, you can put 1,000 words together. Great, here's some 1,000 words, and great, you've added this email. But people are disappointed with what they received, especially if you've done an effective job on your landing page in sort of pitching exactly all the things that you're going to get in this report, and then it falls flat. That's not going to do well for you either. So trying to over deliver on that end is also the long game is hugely important to creating that satisfaction and just constantly hammering that home. It will massively pay off as well. So don't fall flat on that. That would be my big suggestion.
Yeah. So wrapping up here, I know we got some bunch of stats and a couple of case studies to share with you too that we'll run through real quick. But again, yeah, I think the biggest takeaway I said a couple of minutes ago is just test, always be testing something, and just really understand that the long game, it is absolutely a long game. The best marketing is a long game. Some things might give you some results overnight, but it's not sustainable. Everything is going to take a lot of time to, build that momentum and build those consistent results. And so always testing something, always looking for different ways to tweak something and compare it to past performance is what's going to help. It also, at least in my mind, keeps you sane, because you always have something that you can tweak and that you can change, so that, if maybe initially you're not getting the results that you want or think that you should be getting, you have a ton of things in your back pocket that you can keep trying. And I think that, at least for me, is one of the more fun aspects of marketing. Especially once you're able to reframe it from I'm constantly failing at something to I'm constantly learning about a bunch of different ways that don't work. And I think that's a very important distinction, especially when you're in that sort of marketing mindset.
I agree.
Yes.
It's very well said. I have nothing more to add to that.
Awesome. So a bunch of statistics here, real quick, just on lead magnets and integrating those. The average landing page conversion across all industries is around 2.35%, but the top 25% of landing pages convert more than 5%. And so if you can kind of get to that point where you're in that top 25, you can easily double your conversions and really get a lot more value out of that. 52% of global website traffic comes from mobile devices. So that number is only going to keep going up, by the way. More and more people are, using their phones more than they are their desktops or their laptops to surf the web. Even if they're coming to it from their email or from social media first, that's, making sure that your website is mobile optimized and making sure that your landing pages are mobile optimized is just increasingly more important as time goes on. 1 second delay in page time can lead to a 7% reduction in conversions. And here's the thing, a lot of my clients get these sort of fear-mongering emails about your website is failing Google page speed test. And sure, it probably is, but also YouTube fails Google's page speed test, and YouTube is a Google property. So be careful what you listen to in that regard. But if your landing pages are taking seconds to load, that's a problem. And you should definitely look at ways to optimize that. The key metric is time to first byte, TTFB, and that should be in the millisecond range. And so if you're doing things like embedding or even the video file example that Graham talked about, just making sure that you're doing everything you can to optimize that load time, the better that your website's going to perform, and the more time people will be open to spending on that page. Landing pages. I was going to ask you about this when you were talking about it, and I just didn't jump in. Landing pages with a call to action placed above the fold have an average conversion rate of 7% compared to 4.2 with it below the fold. And if you're not familiar with that terminology, the fold, at least in terms of a website, is just everything that shows up before you have to start scrolling, I think is kind of the most elementary way to put that. And so you want to make sure that if you do have a longer landing page, make sure that you still have a call to action in that first bit of your landing page before people start scrolling.
Many of the call to action, the best landing page designs have call to actions almost every scroll, right? Yeah. It's just giving you no option, but you're like, all right, I'm ready to go now. I'm ready to take action now. I'm ready to take action now. Those are the good ones to use.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking about testing things, changing the call to action button color can increase your conversions by up to 147%. And so, like, let's say that your call to action button is kind of blended into your color scheme. Doing something the opposite of that, like Graham said, or even going like red or green, could end up really affecting the conversion rate. I know that that's something that we've seen in just some of the A/B tests that we've done on our landing pages. Including a video can increase conversion by up to 86%. Video, whether it's on social media or even just on websites in general, that's the kinds of content that people are gravitating to, that they're going to engage with a lot more. I know for us, especially on the legal side of things, people are just naturally intimidated by lawyers. They think that all lawyers are super scary. And it's been my experience that they're not. They're just people who decided to be lawyers. And a lot of them will say that that's a scary decision in and of itself. But you know what? That's just, you can be self-deprecating on your own time. Personalized call to actions convert 202% better than generic calls to action. So, Graham, like, what's a good example of a personalized call to action versus a generic one?
Well, it's fascinating that all these statistics here really support all the tips and suggestions that we had at the beginning. It's odd how that worked out, but personalized CTAs, it's back to that research phase. right? Speaking that language specifically to who your customer base is, it's, again, worth its weight in gold, right? Really, really focusing and using those selective words to be speaking to a specific audience as much as possible, and using those pain points. Those are all key factors to getting that 202%.
Yeah. 92% of consumers trust recommendations from others, even people they don't know, over branded content. So that speaks to that power of social proof. So,
as long as they can, as long as they can appreciate that it's actually someone real.
Right. Yes. So, if referrals and word of mouth are huge to your business, again, I keep bringing up legal. That's just the majority of people that I work with. I know that's huge. So being able to, if you're struggling, at least initially, to generate referrals from current, former clients, other referral sources or whatever, being able to build those Google reviews, those Facebook reviews, and provide that social proof is going to help the other leads that you generate convert a lot better. Companies that use A/B testing on their landing pages are 50% more likely to see increased conversion rates. Shocking.
I'm actually really quite surprised that that's not higher.
I agree.
The other 50% that are using the A/B testing and not seeing results are individuals that are not doing the right A/B testing. They're doing more than one variable. They're testing too much complexity, and so they don't actually know what the results are. That statistic is one that I don't necessarily believe in. I think it's more like 100%. You will see improvements if you actually do.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Reducing the number of form fields that you have from 11 to 4 can result in a 120% increase in conversions. I've always looked at that the opposite way. Like the more you have, the less conversion. I mean, it's essentially the same thing, but once you start like name, email, phone number, like that's really all you need. But when you start asking for like, I don't know, business name, physical address or mailing address, social media profiles, all that kind of extra stuff, the less likely it is that people are going to finish filling out that form or fill out the entire form. So yeah, keep it simple, get the absolute requirements, get a name, get some way to contact them, phone or email. Email is my preference, but if you can get that phone number too, that's also really good.
If you're going to use them. If you're not going to use it, then take it out. Right. Don't put a phone number in if you're not going to call. Having the smallest amount of stuff as possible and focusing on the most important is going to get you that 120% increase.
74% of consumers are likely to share valuable content from brands with their friends and family. So, even in the legal industry, and I know that engagement on social media is a big barometer for success, but a lot of legal industry, especially, you're sharing a lot of very sensitive or very heavy material. People aren't going to want to openly engage with that. However, people can share it. People can send that link, even if they don't click the share button on the social media post. They can still click through to it. You can check those metrics as well. But yeah, as long as you're providing that value, that's what's going to get people to spread it around and share it with their family and friends. Content with relevant images gets 94% more views than content without. Pretty self-explanatory there, goes along with the line of video images, just make it more visually appealing, more visually engaging there. Infographics can increase web traffic by up to 12%. Infographics, another kind of quasi lead magnet. You don't have to gate those, but being able to provide that information in just a single page, can help send some traffic to your website and build some more engagement that way. Long form content generates 9 times more leads than short form content. 69% of all digital media engagement happens on mobile devices, emphasizing the importance. So that's kind of what I was saying earlier about, the 52% of all traffic comes from mobile. Most of the engagement at that point then also comes from mobile as well. I already covered that one. I've got in there twice. Content upgrades, such as checklists or cheat sheets, can increase conversion rates by up to 785%. So you're talking about maybe finding some good lead magnets, try a checklist, try a cheat sheet. There's a lot of data there that suggests that does convert really, really well. 80% of readers never make it past the headline. So make sure your headlines are compelling. We touched on that earlier. 90% of successful B2B content marketers prioritize their audience's informational needs over the promotional messages. Goes back to what I was saying earlier. Don't treat your landing pages or your social media content like a billboard. You can control that message. You can really touch on pain points. You don't have to constantly self-promote. You don't have to constantly give out your phone number, constantly tell people to call your office, whatever it is. Provide value, address the pain points. That's what's really gonna drive that success. 80% of B2B content marketing assets are gated. I still see this a lot in B2C as well. I can't remember if that stat's in here or not, but even if you're not B2B, still having some sort of gated content, gated meaning you require some sort of contact information to get that in, is still really effective. And a few case studies here that we'll run through real quick before we end it and maybe open it up for some questions. So if any of you have any questions, feel free to throw those into the chat now as we run through these. But yeah, Dropbox, they used just a simple landing page with a clear call to action just to encourage signups for their service. And that's what allowed them to really explode onto the scene as a cloud storage provider. It's just nothing more than a simple, very simple landing page. HubSpot, really big marketing platform, a lot of great just lead magnets, different ebooks and templates and webinars that they use. I use them for inspiration all the time. A lot of marketers across a lot of different industries do. They have done that and they've established themselves as a thought leader because of all of the lead magnets and templates and things that they do and the value that they provide. Code Academy has an interactive landing page. So people can kind of almost do like a free trial without even giving any sort of contact information up. That resulted in a pretty big increase in engagement and signups on their page. Unbounce, we use Unbounce for our landing pages. They have an online course on optimization that showcases those benefits and provides that social proof. That approach really helped them explode and become a big provider. It's probably what prompted us to start working with them and start using them as our landing page platform. MailChimp, we use MailChimp as our email marketing provider. They have a primary lead magnet called a comprehensive guide on email marketing. Helped them grow, helped them become a major player, probably helped them get bought out by Intuit, which is owner of QuickBooks. And so really helped them explode in the industry. Airbnb's referral program, their landing page does a lot of great work with social proof, clearly outlines the benefits and has that simple design. So, you know, Airbnb, it's allowed them to really blow up over the last couple of years. Neil Patel, great marketing influencer, has a lot of great lead magnets, does a lot of great content just around marketing strategy and all of that. And that's helped him become a really big influencer. Slack, most businesses use Slack as their in-office messaging app, all because they have a really simple landing page that highlights their value prop really well, includes a really clear call to action, you know, and that's what helped. Canva, we use Canva as well. I see a theme here. They have a lot of lead magnets. They have a lot of design templates and easy to use guides that show you how to create a lot of really cool graphics, even if you have zero artistic skill whatsoever. I fall into that group and I can create some really cool stuff in Canva because of a lot of the templates and stuff that they have created. And that's going to be it. That's going to wrap us up here. Would love any of you out there who are not part of our insider community. If you would like to join, go to spotlightbranding.com/join. We're putting up all kinds of articles, videos, podcast episodes. Warren, who's in here, he's been on our podcast, shared a lot of great insight. He's been on our podcast, Center Stage, and just it's free. You just get content, you know, no service pitch or anything like that. If you are interested in learning more about what we do, you can go to spotlightbranding.com/schedule. But at the very least, really do encourage you to become a Spotlight Insider. You get all the content that we post throughout the week delivered right to you.
Look at those contrasting colors and call to action button right on above the fold and things like that. It's like you've done this before. It's awesome. Uh, thank
Maybe.
you. Yeah, that's right. Thank you. Thank you again. If you do have any other topics that you can think of while we did this presentation that we should cover in the future, and or suggestions or something like that, we would absolutely love to hear them. We're always looking to improve and always trying to get better. So please email us, support@pixeltrue.com. Our website is pixeltrue.com. Of course, if you need any help with landing pages or other design related expertise, we're obviously here to help you with that. But reach out and we'll get you a customized quote based on your needs. But just send us an email. We want some type of improvements. Maybe I was a horrible presenter, and tell that. Explain why that is, what we can do to improve. Send it to John as well. Any tips at all that he can do and improve on. We're always open. We like to consider this almost like a split test in and of itself, right? How effective is it? How can we do better? What can we do better in the future? So thank you everyone for joining. Really appreciate your time, and hopefully you got some value from it.
Awesome. Yes, absolutely. That's going to do it. Went 10 minutes over, but appreciate all of you for sticking around, taking an extended lunch break. For those of you on the left side of the country, on the right side, spending a nice afternoon with us here, post Memorial Day here in the States. Appreciate it. Yes, like Graham said, any feedback, email support@Pixeltrue, or you can reach me directly, John, JOHN, @spotlightbranding.com. Happy to chat with any of you just about your marketing strategy, or anything else we discussed today as well. But I think
If anyone
that's
has
it.
any questions as well, just pop in. This is the time to pop in the chat. Happy to answer any questions that someone might have right now. The webinar is over. If people want to bounce and don't have any questions, then great. But if you do, we're here to answer anything as well. So drop in the chat, post something if you want. Wait a couple of minutes to see if anything activity happens there. And if not, then great. Move on with your day.
Yep. And if you're shy, you can just email it to us as well. That's fine.
That's quite all right too.